Hello and welcome to the Snooty Usher podcast. You are here with Dan, Dave and Welshy. How are we all doing?
Hey everybody.
This time we've got a few different things to talk about. First and foremost, because Dave's actually been to the cinema in the past couple of months, he's actually seen some films that we can all discuss.
I have. 4 times this month. 4 times.
There's one film we want to talk about. There's no passing month or year without 3 or 4 Marvel films, and we're going to discuss the most recent addition to the MCU. That is Doctor Strange. We've all seen it. Welshy, I'll leave you till last because that would be release a diatribe of information our way. Dave, what did you think?
I really enjoyed it. I think the thing that's most amazing to me about it is if you went back to when was Iron Man? 2007?
2007, yeah.
So if you went back to 2007, even after the success of Iron Man, that everybody would be going and we'd be sitting here talking about a Doctor Strange movie. It's unbelievable what these guys have accomplished. Now, obviously, I'm a DC man, so like my only insight into Marvel, other than conversations with Christopher here, is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think they've done a brilliant job. And I thought Doctor Strange was great. Sorry to steal Welshy's thunder here, but he said this a few times. It's like Marvel can do these films in their sleep now. They do the origin story, and it's not boring. You used to get, here's another origin story or another origin story, but they've found a way to make it interesting.
I'm also going to just jump in there. But their release schedule is quite good because they always release a one character origin piece after a large group spectacle. Ant-Man came on the back of Age of Ultron, so you had a very big, action-fueled, huge, mega piece, and then a much smaller character piece to just take it down a peg or two.
Yeah.
And then you had Civil War, which, was huge. You had Doctor Strange, which, was still big, was still very much a smaller, more focused character piece. And again, it just takes it down a little bit from such a big moment, so everyone can just have that pause for breath until the next big thing, which I think next year will be Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yeah.
We go back to Doctor Strange. As I say, I knew very little about Doctor Strange other than the fact that his name was Doctor Strange and that he was a magician.
Sorcerer.
Excuse me. I see that. So it turns out I only knew one thing.
He's
I only knew he was called Doctor
Sorcerer
Strange.
Supreme of the Earth World. Alright, he's Sorcerer Supreme.
So knew even less than I thought I knew going in. So and I was really surprised because I really enjoyed it. What about you, Dan? Before Welshy goes in.
Oh yes, I enjoyed it. I've got other films in the MCU which I've preferred to Doctor Strange, but I'm a big fan of Scott Derrickson's work, who directed this film, did Sinister and Deliver Us From Evil. He also did The Day the Earth Stood Still with Keanu Reeves, which you might
really
not have realised.
I thought
It's an alright film again. It works for Reeves. It's good. It's one of his better pieces.
I think visually it's a spectacle, and I think it's made a great use of special effects, and going through the multiverse was a delight to watch. It was like a kaleidoscope of just craziness going on, and very similar to the microverse. Is that what's
microverse when Ant-Man when he goes micro.
And I wouldn't be surprised if it's at some point those two entwine. I'm sure you can enlighten us more on that. But it was really good. I love Mads Mikkelsen as an actor, and seeing him just hammered up as a bad guy was really fun. I enjoyed it.
Do you not think though that the effects were just a bit too much at times?
I get what they were going for. They were trying to sort of show you, because one of the biggest problems with magic is showing the extent of it or how powerful somebody is, and it gets a bit crazy and it gets a bit ridiculous. So I think they were trying to show you what everyone could do and what could be done. So when it came to the finale, you weren't as like, well, hang on a minute, how they go from walking through portals to just, you said, the kaleidoscope that is the other dimensions. And I think that's what we're going for. I think, but you're right, just because you can do something doesn't mean you always should.
Yes, there were some times, especially when the Strange and Baron Mordo are running away from Mads Mikkelsen and the cityscape is just falling in on itself. It is really tough to.
It was made for
to keep up.
It was made for IMAX. It's purely there for the IMAX.
Yeah.
Something to have visually to go, wow.
If I was to have if I was to be critical at all of it, it's just like when they kept having those portals and you just had Mads Mikkelsen and 2 guys and they just was just walking straight towards the camera and nobody's batting an eyelid. Like, they walk through Hong Kong and they're just like walking with purpose, and then they walk through this hole in the middle of the road and nobody pays any attention to it, and it's like, and that I was like, that's just really off-putting. It just didn't seem like.
Did they not keep putting the? Was it not what verse is it? The Mirrorverse.
Yeah, the Mirrorverse.
So they can't see it.
So it happens, but that's why, because in the Mirrorverse it happens alongside the real world, but the real world don't see
Yeah, but
it.
then they keep when they come from the Mirrorverse into the real verse, I guess.
Yeah.
Then like they're just like kind of walking with this purposeful stride, and like everyone's like, surely people are like, where the hell did these guys in robes come from? But what I did like was like you had an actress like Rachel McAdam who played. It was a really understated role, and it was kind of like she didn't go with him on his adventures. She didn't try it. Like she was just there,
and they didn't fall in love, and they didn't have a big, just epic romance. It was very much a case of
like she wasn't Natalie Portman, which
it was. It was. I'm sorry, I was a dick. Here I am. Look, look where I am now, sweetie. Yeah. And then that was it. And it could be something, but it might not be.
But it was so good. Like she was just. She's like, where are you going? He's like, well, I've got a portal to another way, and it's in the mop closet.
And he shows her as well.
And it's like it was cool. I think it was good. It was well written. It was funny. I like the fact that they introduced Baron Mordo as like a big villain.
It's his arch enemy. When he was training, they were competitors, and actually were both going for Sorcerer Supreme. And Baron Mordo was jealous of Doctor Strange, and obviously kills, and betrays him, and becomes evil, and become locked in eternal strife. It's sort of his Lex Luthor, his Joker, his Kingpin. So when they started with friends, I was thinking, well, how are they going to do this, and how's it going to work? And then they did it, and when he decides to break away and sort of go down his own path, I was like, all right. So you've got what you need to be, and you've done it slightly differently. Same with Wong. Wong is not like that in the comics. In the comics, Wong is this little, very effeminate sort of manservant who just does everything with Doctor Strange, does everything. He's like an Alfred, except more. Actually, no, they're both quite wisecracking. Anyway, so this someone he's a bit more bigger, he's a bit more nasty. He's got knowledge of all the magic and the tomes, and he's more militant. It's interesting. It's just a nice touch, and he's there to help them. And I think they get where they need to be, and they get there well. If they don't, the changes that are made work because they're not breaking away from the major story or the major core themes. It's very much, it's sticking to what it knows, and it just does it well. It does it brilliantly. And I've said this, Marvel can do it in their sleep. They know what they're doing. They're not stupid.
It's a pretty gnarly post-credit scene as well.
It is,
when he goes to see Benjamin Bratt, and he pulls that, not just the power away from him, just the ability to walk. And that is really dark.
Yeah.
It's like, that's pretty morbid. But, I mean, Chiwetel's been a really good actor, and he's rose in the limelight a lot recently. 999, 12 Years a Slave. He's coming to prominence eventually. So to see him taking on a bad guy could be.
To be fair, he plays the bad guy. He plays the bad guy in Serenity, and he's great in that.
And you're forgetting, both of you, that he plays the bad guy in the Mark Wahlberg star vehicle Four Brothers, where
he's in Four Brothers.
He's the bad guy, yeah.
I fell asleep during that.
He's the guy, yeah. He fights Mark Wahlberg in the snow at the end, and he's wearing like a big white puffer jacket. And
isn't he in Love Actually with Keira Knightley?
He's in that as well.
He's in Love Actually with Keira. He marries Keira Knightley and Andrew Lincoln, not Andrew Garfield. Andrew Lincoln is in Love with her, isn't he? That's right.
But no, he's the bad guy in that one. It's really over the top American accent. It's terrible.
Wow. That's. I didn't fall asleep with that in the cinema.
Terrence Howard's in that as well.
I knew Terrence Howard.
He's the cop in it.
Yeah.
Terrence Howard.
Garrett Hedlund.
Speaking of Marvel films,
killed,
what happened to Terrence Howard? He's off Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
So Benedict Cumberbatch, a good addition to the MCU roster.
Yeah, very good. I mean, he's made for it. It's.
Do you feel he's been groomed to replace somebody?
Talk about Downey Jr. Totally.
It does feel like that.
Yeah. Even if not, you've then got two very interesting egos, or very similar kind of egos, going at each other. You've got a prodigy and a prodigy, who are both very sure of themselves and going at each other, which should be interesting. But I think, this is not hard for Benedict. He's not stretching himself. It's not a role that's really challenging him. It's
the accent challenged him a few times though.
Make it again. Make him English. I mean, Michael Fassbender is supposed to be American, sort of German, but still has Irish when he shouts and screams. You could have made him English. It wouldn't have made a difference. No one would have cared.
Yeah, it happens.
No one would watch that and go, "Oh my God, Benedict Cumberbatch is an American."
Talking about Wong before, and the fact that he was played by Benedict Wong, who is always going to be memorable from being in the Street Countdown episodes of the IT Crowd.
What's Street Countdown?
Now he's
like
in the
Countdown,
Marvel. Now he's
on the street.
He's in the Marvel universe now.
Sounds dangerous. Bring thermals; it can get quite cold.
Is he going to be in Ragnarok then or not?
No, I think they're back. I think Ragnarok's over when he comes back. I think we've had Ragnarok, But I'm not sure because
Do you think that scene with...
I don't know because without getting right, so spoiler alert here, if you don't want to listen, cover your ears. Bela Ray Bill kills Thor in Ragnarok, so I'm not sure how it's going to work. But I also know the Hulk's with him, so that would make things a bit different. We've never seen him tested truly beyond his might in the real world. But when he's on Asgard or Jotunheim or wherever he's going to go, but I have a feeling they've come back because they're looking for Loki. And as far as they're aware, Loki, don't forget Loki's still.
They don't know at the end of.
Yeah, they don't
Thor.
know
That world.
Yeah.
So I think something's happened because obviously he goes back to Asgard because he gets the vision in the secret temple water in Age of Ultron, which has no place. Goes back because there's trouble. I imagine the Hulk goes with him, or he gets the Hulk, or somehow the Hulk ends up there. And then they do whatever they've got to do, and they find out that Loki's Loki, and somehow he escapes or something back to Earth, and that's who they're looking for.
That's a risky move then, showing something that happens after a film.
It is, and it's also like obviously Ragnarok has been sort of built up to be this cataclysmic event for Asgard and potentially Thor as a character. And when you see him in that post-credit scene, he's very laissez-faire, just chilling in a chair.
Yeah.
You're like,
So again, I might be wrong.
cool.
I might be for that, but I don't know when they're on about Loki and Odin. I've got to find Odin and Loki, and I'm thinking, well, technically, you went back to Asgard, so there's something's had to have happened
yeah, it
between
is
that.
because he's not looking for Loki. He's looking for his dad, isn't he? He's looking for Odin. He's looking
See,
for
Ant-Man, the post-credit scene, totally placed that in the middle of Civil War, so we knew exactly where it was. This is just him going, oh, I need a beer, I need to find my dad,
Yeah.
and then get out of New York. That's all you need. It doesn't give you a lot. I think it's after Ragnarok, myself personally.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
Okay, last thing before we move on from Doctor Strange. No sign of him in the trailers, I believe. Was anybody expecting Dormammu?
No, not at all. I was like, oh, we'll not see him until again the next one, or
Well, I thought that Doctor Strange was a wizard, but apparently he was a sorcerer, so I had no idea who Dormammu was.
again a Galactus Thanos style villain. Because the next logical step, once you've gotten rid or you've managed to deal with Thanos, would be Dormammu, who would be the next logical step of villain. Because you don't have a Fantastic Four, so it's very unlikely you would do Galactus.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do the Marvel Universe Galactus, but with a Fantastic Four, it doesn't really work. But I thought it would be much later. So when I did see him, I was like, wow, they really did it. And what I love as well is how he wins, and we talked about this before we started, was that he doesn't outfight him, because really he's an immortal presence, a being. He kind of just sort of outsmarts him, which I like, and it fits with that character, Doctor Strange. It's about brains and using, more than just,
What I liked about Dormammu is he was kind of like Parallax in the Green Lantern movie. He was,
A fast cloud in space.
yeah, like that kind of ethereal. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to wake Welshy up. Sorry.
To be fair, I was worried as well. I've always worried about how they're going to do Dormammu. We're going to do again a fart cloud, or but they didn't really. Green Lantern, we had to go there.
I have to
go there.
Green Lantern.
We couldn't get through it.
Green Lantern and Tyler Kitsch as Gambit are the two buttons that I push to wind Welshy up. So.
We'll raise Welshy's spirits. Enough of Dormammu and any potential teasing of Green Lantern again. That Logan trailer has just dropped.
Yeah! Old Man Logan!
Incoming next year in March. I think me and Welshy stand alone in that we were one of the few people who seemed to think Wolverine was actually a really good Wolverine film.
I loved Wolverine. I thought Wolverine was the best of the X-Men. I thought it was the best of the X-Men films. I really did. It was fantastic. And I know that's a really contentious argument, but I did not like the X-Men films. Again, anyone, regular listeners will know.
Admittedly, it does get a bit generic towards the end when he starts fighting Silver Samurai and it just gets a bit superhero-y.
Bit mad.
But before that, it's really good.
Yeah.
Super good character building story. But this trailer, obviously accompanied by the brilliant Johnny Cash. Spine tingling is the first word that came to my mind when I watched that
I think
trailer.
it's fantastic. He's getting old. If this is going to be his last appearance as Wolverine, it's the logical story to tell.
I think the only other time we'll see Hugh Jackman in that kind of setting will be in a Deadpool movie. I think he could turn up in Deadpool at some point. Just, he can't not. Or Hugh Jackman will turn up. I can't not see it happening.
Problem I have is the story we all want to see. Everyone who loves Wolverine wants Old Man Logan, right? And it looks like we're going to get Old Man Logan, but we're not going to get Mark Millar's Old Man Logan.
Yeah, that's a good thing because Mark Millar's overrated. Mark Millar, that's good.
It is. But everyone loved that. That's a great story. The comic book Old Man Logan is a great story. If you take out Mark Millar being Mark Millar, it's fantastic. This isn't going to be that, and that's the problem I have. It's a different story with a similar type of Wolverine, if that makes sense. Me not being a big Marvel fan, to be honest, it's probably good for me because like I'm just going to go and enjoy like the last time seeing Hugh Jackman in this role. But I think it's going to get a lot of fanboys quite annoyed because they're not telling the story that they think they're going to tell by saying.
I think everyone from, again, I'm quite active on forums and sort of among fans and stuff, and I have a few fans who again are very die-hard like myself.
That's Marvel forums, not any other sort of deviant forums.
Well, he's on those forums as well, but he's talking about the Marvel ones.
Really, I'm just jumping on me all. Wow, okay. Should I target on my back? Sometimes I really should. Victim here.
Again, that's...
Like, we're done?
Yeah, we're done.
Are we done with Oban Magnetic, the Burn Ward?
I'm out.
Yeah, good, okay. So, a lot of fanboys, as Dave said, are a bit like, oh, you know, there's going to be no Clint Barton, there's going to be no Hawkeye and stuff, but we're getting X-23, which is good, and we're getting Wolverine on the edge, and I think the Wolverine works best when he is on the edge, and they're not popping his claws and won't pop his claws, and you know, all that kind of stuff's going to be there. So I think there's enough goodwill among the fans, and especially because it's most likely going to be Hugh Jackman's last hurrah, enjoyment of especially the Wolverine as well, that we can get through it. Everyone's going to be like, yeah, we know what we're going to get. It may not be like the comics, but it's going to be as close as we're going to get without, you know, it being messed up. And I'm, like you've always said, it can't always be like the comics, even if, you know, I think all the good stuff's there, and as long as they keep to the core ideals, we'll be alright. I don't want loads of trailers and that coming out over the next year and showing loads of stuff. I think what they've shown us should be enough, and then let us see it from there. The problem's going to be able to keep releasing loads and loads of information. And
unfortunately, it is 20th Century Fox, so like Warner Brothers, they're going to show about 20 different trailers and ruin the film before it comes out.
And no, nobody's as bad as Warner's for that, though.
Yeah, Warner's are really bad, like, they really are.
We've got a massive big reveal in our movie. I tell you what, let's give it away before anyone's got a chance to see it.
Prime example recently, Kong Skull Island. John C. Reilly turning up in that trailer. Warner's, you stupid bastards.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, it does look like an interesting film, like I have to say.
It does look interesting.
I didn't mind the last King Kong. I didn't mind it. It was a little bit avant-garde for me.
The King Kong, the Peter Jackson one, a bit at the end. So again, spoilers, King Kong falls off the Empire State Building and stuff. You know.
Yeah, also the Titanic sinks.
He's lying there, and Jack Black comes
and
up.
Jesus dies in Passion of the Christ. You know, spoiler alert.
Jack Black goes up to him and he's like, it was beauty that killed the beast. It's like, no, it was you.
It was him flying B-15s.
You took him off his island. You made him into that.
But no, I think it looks good. I'm actually interested, even with the Just Say Ready, because I'm not really big into the last one. I thought it was again like avant-garde. So I'm kind of to see a little bit more.
Well, Warner's bought King Kong off Universal because they want to like reboot the whole thing, have this Skull Island, and then lead that into a King Kong versus Godzilla mashup, which is going to happen after Godzilla 2 apparently.
Alright.
So who knows, man? Like,
yeah, it doesn't bode well for any character in the film.
Yeah, no one's going to come off well in that. Either King Kong, no Godzilla, because I know Godzilla was met with mixed reviews on that.
Because they had Aaron Taylor Johnson, who is the blandest leading man of all time.
Yeah, that it was a good Godzilla film. You know, we've had worse. We've had Rubber Suit worse. But a King Kong mashup, something I'd be looking forward to.
It's a great trailer. It is. I think the best trailer I've seen this year is for Live by Night, which is Ben Affleck's
directed by Ben Affleck. Is it written by?
Based on a novel by Dennis Lehane.
That's it. Dennis Lehane, yeah.
Who wrote Gone Baby Gone. He also wrote The Drop, which was a film with Tom Hardy and James Gandolfini.
That was an amazing film. I watched that with you, or did I watch it?
Yeah.
Fantastic film.
He also wrote the book Mystic River, which
was also great.
Which again was
great film.
Mystic River is one of the best books I've ever read, and it's one of those.
Did you like the film?
I did like the film. Now, the problem I had with the book is
you
can see it coming, you can see the ending coming, and you're thinking, please God, don't let this happen, and it does. And I'm thinking, when you watch Mystic River, the movie, and like, I just love the fact of who they cast. They had Tim Robbins and Sean Penn and Kevin Bacon, and all the way through the film, I'm like, right, I am pleading with Hollywood to change the end for the first time ever. Like, give us a happy ending, and they obviously they didn't because it's Eastwood, and I thought the film was great, but the book was fantastic. But it just looks great, and Affleck, as we know, is quite a gifted director as well as. I'm just loving this kind of renaissance that he's having at the minute, and
I think he ups and downs. I think he like for every bad film. Let's not forget he did The Town, and The Town was great.
Town was.
You know, Gone Baby Gone in The Town. No, he wasn't in Gone Baby
Yeah,
Gone.
but
He directed it.
Yeah, and I mean,
he's shown a knack for being able to direct.
Yeah, and
Really good films.
I think a better director than an actor. I mean, I like him as an actor, but I think he's a stronger director. I mean, I know Argo, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I liked it. He did direct Argo, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
He did direct and starred in Argo.
Which won Best Film when he wasn't even nominated for Best Director,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous. But no, I think that the best trailer of the year for me so far is that.
Okay, so a new film out at cinemas at the moment is Sully, directed by Clint Eastwood, Miracle on the Hudson, following the real-life story of a passenger jet landing in the Hudson River. Before we move on to other things about the film, what are your favourite plane disaster movies?
Executive Decision. Boom. All you need.
And why would Executive Decision be all you need?
Alright, so you've got Halle Berry, you've got Kurt Russell, you've got Steven Seagal, you've got Oliver Platt, you've got John Leguizamo, yeah? Right? You've got Halle Berry trying to fly a plane with a flight attendant manual, you've got the suit that is Kurt Russell, which is no suit ever. It's just awesome. It's ridiculous. It's just, you know...
It's great. It's daft. It's like... It's one of those movies that I got it in a Steven Seagal box set. Spoilers for a 25-year-old film, but Steven Seagal gets killed after 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's like... It's nothing... He's like a very, very small part of it. Fun, it's stupid, it's daft.
And the bomb with the... We'll use something to stop the bomb, okay? We'll use this cocktail stick.
Lollipop stick.
Are you kidding me?
This
is a high... I love it. I mean, you know...
I think probably Executive Decision does it for me. I'm not big on disaster movies and stuff, so... You couldn't really count Die Hard 2 because it's in an airport, can you? Because the kind of... like, I would say...
I'll give you.
Yeah. And a Die Hard movie where he futilely runs out to try and stop that plane with the... You know, when he gets the tux on the paint rags and he tries to... I guess, yeah, Die Hard 2 is probably the best I can think of in that.
Would you believe me if I told you the person who directed Executive Decision directed US Marshals and then directed Star Trek Nemesis?
Wow.
I would believe he directed Star Trek
Nemesis, definitely. Jesus.
I
didn't even like Star Trek and I hated that.
Stuart Baird is his name. Also an editor on Skyfall and Casino Royale. And funnily enough, Die Hard 2.
Yay!
If I was to pick a plane disaster movie, I think I wouldn't go out my way to watch disaster films, but I very much enjoy Airplane, and I'm pretty sure if James was here with us sitting down right now, he'd probably agree with me that Airplane's one of the best plane disaster films.
To be fair, if you know what, we'll wait and we'll get there.
No, you have the floor.
Well, I know we're gonna have to talk about when I think of a good pilot. To me, it's the autopilot from Airplane. I'm sorry, but what's it? What's it called? The autopilot doll that told the press and activate. What is it called again? Otto. Is it Otto? I'm dead sure it's Otto. But the autopilot doll. That's if he was an Executive Decision, that would have been an Oscar award-worthy movie. I'm just gonna say.
Now, if Sully, obviously, not every person will have the luxury of having a pilot like Sully in their airplane, flying their planes alongside Aaron Eckhart. If you were in the same scenario, and I guess maybe don't have to restrict this to pilots if you want somebody else to do it. If you were in the same scenario, who do you want in that cockpit if it's somebody other than Sully? You can't have Sully. Who do you have instead?
Maverick.
Okay, right. When you say Maverick, can you explain which Maverick?
Sorry, when I say Maverick, I mean obviously...
Not the Old West.
not the gunslinger and
is James Garner going to say
No, I mean Top Gun. I mean the man who writes checks his body can't cash. The hotshot that is Maverick, and probably Goose as well if he was in there, because that'd be awesome.
Well, no, do you want a guy in there like Maverick? Because when the going got tough and they both ejected out, Goose died again. Spoilers for spoiler. Movie, but
you deserve to have Top spoiled for you if you have not seen it.
But that spoiler, Darth Vader as Luke Skywalker's father.
I think for me, I would go with Poe Dameron from Force Awakens. He not only would he land that plane on the Hudson, he would do like a loop the loop. And then like go like a woo or something, you know. And then he would bounce it on the water. I think Poe Dameron would be the pilot I would have.
I like that. It's good. It's good.
Just to let Welshy know, the inflatable pilot doll is listed as Otto.
Yes, I knew it was something stupid like that. I knew it was something German or something like that.
Well done. Well done. Who would I have as my pilot? I mean, do I want to be funny and say someone like Ricky Bobby? Just for shits and giggles to see what would happen, you know?
If you ain't first, you're left. With a live cougar on the side.
Yeah, you know, shake and bake away through the air. See, you know?
I think we've killed Welshy with that choice.
Okay, I'll give it a second.
Okay, so while she goes to get his inhaler to recover from that line, I didn't think it was that funny. If I was being more serious, I guess you wouldn't mind a Lando Calrissian, you wouldn't mind a Han Solo flying your plane for you. Again, would it be as dramatic as a Poe Dameron doing it? No, I think he's got a bit more flair to.
I think so.
To doing that. I mean, alternatively, you have Darth Vader doing it. He flies a TIE fighter.
Yeah, pretty badly though, doesn't he?
Yeah, really.
But what about Porkins from Star Wars?
Yeah.
So basically, anybody in the assault on the Death Star.
Wedge Antilles.
Wedge Antilles.
But let's give Wedge some.
To be fair, now he leads the Rogue Squadron.
He does indeed.
Right. Okay. So we've.
Sorry, I think that's really bad. Right. Do you know when obviously he's flying the plane? After come out in the head, they did that conversation with John T. Reilly. Dearest baby Jesus in your swaddling cloth, help us get through this. I like to imagine Jesus with like a tuxedo t-shirt. I just imagine that in the plane of a cockpit that's going to crash. Sorry, it's even more funny.
Well, let's not speak out to that actual. the comedy.
I like to imagine Jesus is a ninja. Sorry, I'll get off that.
That's okay. So we've recently reviewed Sully. It's a really good film with a really, really strong performance by Tom Hanks. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does feature in some awards nominations next year. However, there's been a slight point of controversy raised by the NTSB, who are portrayed in the film as not villains as a Marvel villain or a Star Wars villain, but as
for the people who don't know aviation authorities, what does the NTSB
the National
stand for?
Transportation Safety Board,
There
or
you
Bureau.
go. I mean, as an aviation expert myself, I knew that, but I'm just thinking the listeners out there.
My apologies. I just said the acronym because I've been reading about it. Yeah, so they've been portrayed in a negative light, and some people have actually came out and said that's not what happened. Now, when it comes to films that are based on true stories, events can be over dramatised, and a little bit of creative license is taken with them. But I guess for Sully, it's a true story that has been widely documented. There's videos of the plane landing in the Hudson River. Sully himself has actually got a memoir about the whole event and everything that surrounded it afterwards. There was an 18-month investigation, I believe. However, in the film, it's condensed to 2 days, and they've made it look like this board is trying to convict Sully of wrongdoing when they didn't necessarily have the authority to do that. They were there to ask every sort of question that you would if you did something as significant as landing a river.
It's quite interesting in the fact that, because when something like that would happen, I imagine there would be an inquest, but when you watch films, you don't always see that because it's not the interesting part, or not something you would assume would be interesting or necessary to the film, whereas this is actually the whole part of the plot, which is interesting. It's a nice take on something like a disaster movie.
Yeah.
Is it the difference between a piece of entertainment and a documentary? Like, the thing is, but then it puts into question, should they even have made the film in the first place? If there's not a story to tell, then don't tell a different one, you know? And it's like that's what documentaries are there for, like, to tell us what happened and reflect on it, whereas a film, classically at least, should be a piece of entertainment. Now, I have an issue with it because they're basically demonising real people. There is real guys who sat on that NTSB,
the National Transportation Safety Bureau.
Yeah, who, you know,
You're always learning on this podcast.
who were for a few. I mean, when was that, Dan? Sorry, when did that take place?
2009 took place.
So, like, what, 7 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, and that's still pretty new to be besmirching like real people and sort of saying that they were villains when they weren't. Now, like with anything, when you're putting it on screen, you have to make changes. Now, one of the biggest issues I had going back to 2002, when Peter Jackson triumphantly made the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But yes, the biggest thing in that is that Faramir, they turned the character of Faramir from a hero into a villain.
Yeah.
And the whole point or the biggest thing about Faramir's character in the books, he was the complete opposite of his brother, who was played by Sean Bean, whereas he was never tested by the ring, whereas in the film he was. But the writers chose to make that change to give the ring bearer an obstacle to overcome.
Yeah.
So, and that's fine when it's a work of fiction. You can change a character from a fictional character from a good to a bad guy or whatever. But when it's something that actually happened and those people are still around to watch the film, they'd be like, if you worked for the NTSB, like surely you would be up in arms that you were demonised in a film with Tom Hanks.
Strangely enough, they have came out and said that it didn't go down like that. Sully has, if all the articles are correct, asked for the names to be changed because of the way they were being presented in the film, because it wasn't necessarily a fair representation, but he's not letting it get in the way of drama and a bit, presumably a bit of money making.
I'd imagine so. But I think I don't have as much of a problem with that, is because nobody died on the history of the Miracle on the Hudsons. Whereas if it's like a war film or something, Black Hawk Down we were talking about before, if they hadn't played Black Hawk Down so straight, and I mean I'm sure there's some artistic license in there, but you know, I think it's more of a problem there when you're dealing with people who, and Lone Survivor probably is a really good example of that.
So
there. I mean,
an interesting one is that the film Sleepers was based,
which just didn't happen. I'm sorry, there's no way that happened.
Wow. Okay. So yeah.
sorry.
There you go. And that was basically
an example of a parade being rained on.
Yeah. So the guy who wrote the book, Lorenzo Carcaterra, it was originally a book, and he wrote it and said that this happened, and then it was investigated massively. It was a huge inquest, and it turned out that none of it actually happened. And he claimed it did. He claimed it was all covered up. Obviously, he's a big fan of Monte Cristo, which plays. If you've read the Monte Cristo book, it plays heavily into Sleepers and even the film. It's a huge part. So I think he was just being a bit creative, but again, it's one of them things where
it's a great film.
It is a great film, and obviously, whether it's true or not, it's a horrendous piece of a horrendous trauma, and to watch is hard going, and it really incites in your emotion. Now, if it was true, that's horrendous. I don't think it was myself personally, but again, I don't know. But yeah, I know you quite adamant that it wasn't. A lot of people said that it was fake.
There's no way that you can manipulate. I don't think you can manipulate the justice system to the point that they did in that.
No, it wasn't that. It was the abuse they faced at the Wilkinson's home.
I think it was even down to that.
You know, the whole manipulating the system wasn't the problem. The problem was the inquest into the Wilkinson's home for boys.
Right.
And the huge inquest that happened then, all this abuse that was supposed to happen, and this whole big thing, and these guys who were supposedly accused weren't. Apparently, there was a massive, and there was nothing. It was all just his writing, basically him saying that this happened to the four friends, and then these guys, they shot this guy, and there was a link to shoot the guy, and that's what they made it up for. They was trying to protect his friends.
The guy who got shot, the guards who got shot out, I think it was Jeffrey Donovan.
No way!
Yeah. I watched it last month. And
amazing!
So Dan and I are massive fans of a TV show called Burn Notice, and anytime Jeffrey Donovan turns up in anything, it's a big deal.
It's amazing. A slight digression here. Soldado is the sequel to Sicario, which is being wrote now. Won't be featuring Emily Blunt. It will be focusing on Benicio del Toro and Josh Brolin's characters. Excellent. However, Jeffrey Donovan has also said in an interview it's about 3 guys who go down into Mexico to create wars between the cartels.
Right.
Jeffrey Donovan was in Sicario.
He was.
As part of that ensemble.
Excellent.
So that potentially means that Donovan could be getting a bigger role in Soldado. I sincerely hope it is.
Oh, absolutely.
Going back to the documentary thing again as well, and the artistic fiction. Big fan of sort of crime films and crime in itself. And I've told you this to you before about Goodfellas. The book, based on obviously by Pileggi, based on his interviews with Henry Hill and sort of the other sort of lower members of the mob and the FBI and stuff. It's all pretty accurate. There's a lot of everything's pretty much the same. What's really interesting though is the end bit. When he gets arrested the second time, when obviously the cocaine, they get him in the car and they take him in. In actual fact, the reason they were going to kill him is because the federal government dragged him in, kept him in 3 weeks longer than they should have kept him in, and dragged him in every morning to make him look like a traitor, like he was grassing them up. So when they knew that when they released him, because he was a nobody, they'd instantly try and kill him. Whereas in the film, it shows you that he actually did it like that. They were already going to kill him. And so it really is interesting that actually he wasn't a rat until they made him into a rat, which I think changes the film massively for Henry Hill's character from Ray Liotta's point of view. It really does make him not a sympathetic character.
Tad more sympathetic.
But he lost everything because they totally made him into a scapegoat.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting. And again, that's only a tiny change to relatively true events.
Yeah.
And even the FBI came out and said, no, it's true. When we got Henry Hill, we had no idea how important he was, and that was all true. That was all of it. That is nigh on to the letter.
Yeah.
There's a few tiny changes with the names and stuff because they couldn't because of the mob and that. But yeah, so that also all true. But the changes are.
I think the biggest
I think it's like you said.
Problem is like whenever I see based on a true story or inspired by true events, I immediately now don't really. As soon as I'm out of the film, I go and find out what happened to see how, like.
Well, another big thing with like Boy in the Striped Pajamas and stuff, and some of the Holocaust movies, because they're saying that they're trying to sort of say just because you didn't know about it doesn't mean it doesn't.
Yeah.
It absconds you. I mean, I'm not sure. Again, that's a big thing about that. The
I think
trying
it's
to
more
twist
for
the event. It's
for me. It was me and the wife watched. I have to say a delightful film called Saving Mr. Banks, which was all about Walt Disney's relationship with P.L. Travers and how he got to.
That was total fiction. That was utter. That was.
And then. I found myself. I was quite heartwarmed.
They met twice, and that was it.
Well, yeah, and I went and looked at it
in letters,
and I was like, "This entire film has been made up."
She hated it.
Like,
she hated it. She cried because she hated it.
It's nothing to do with it. But then at the end of the day, does that change the fact that I really enjoyed the film? It was a nice story. If they'd have put this isn't based on any, would I've looked at it differently? Probably. But then you look at what the Coen Brothers did with Fargo and put that
totally subverted the entire
totally
idea.
Subverted the idea by saying this is true. All the names have been changed to like protect the living and remember the dead or something like that, and that's something that's carried on through the 2 seasons of Fargo, the TV series. I think overall, yes, I think they can pretty much change what they like, because at the end of the day, film is a piece of entertainment, and if it's. But then it calls into question whether they should have made Sully in the first place. If there's not a story to tell, don't make one up. Just go and make up another one.
There's reports that Clint Eastwood didn't want to direct it initially because he didn't think there was any conflict in the story, so that there was no real story to tell. One of the producers, I think, when they got the rights to the book, said this is more of a documentary. I don't know how we're going to turn this into a feature. Yeah. Obviously, they've managed to do that. I think, it's film. It is entertainment. It's core, and it's done. That's what it's there for. And the film itself is very enjoyable, and I didn't think anything less of it until I read about how they were portrayed. I was like, well, when you think back to it, it's very much how the man gets portrayed in a lot of sort of films about the government or corporations, and it gets a bit. It's a little bit tiresome.
It's any institution like newspapers or whatever you're sort of attacking tends to take the bigger hits. It's just the police department, the laws, the army, the Catholic Church, whatever you're taking shots at. Obviously, there's always elements of truth and non-truth.
But I think, as a final note, we won't discuss this because it's probably more of a media topic. Is though it is entertainment, I think is the more film in media sort of gets ingrained in our lives, do they not have a moral responsibility to present facts as they are?
There's certainly an argument that they're meant to deal with situations in the real world and help people sort of help reach the masses. So it can be argued. It just depends how far you buy into it, because some people don't want to watch documentary style films that are some people want to watch Kurt Russell and Steven Seagal and Halle Berry landing a plane with terrorists and bombs, and that's what people want to see.
Well, but if I could use a window into the history of my own country, and
what's your country?
In Braveheart, you had William Wallace essentially shagged the princess of fucking France, excuse my language, but and then she's pregnant with his kid and all this. I was like, come on, man! It's like he was a barbarian who could barely speak, let alone woo the Queen of France or whatever she was. But I don't know, he got hung, drawn and quartered. That actually happened, but the rest of it I'm not so sure.
Right. Okay, before we delve too much deeper into that, that's something for you all to go away and think about. Right, before we end this, much like the last podcast, because Tom Hanks is in Sully, such a great actor, and he's got such a great body of work, remakes are always prevalent in the film industry. I'm going to reel off a list of films that Tom Hanks is starred in, and I want you to decide whether these films are untouchable, they cannot be remade, or is there something new that could be done with it. Okay? So without further ado, I kind of ruined the first one. Forrest Gump.
No.
Is Forrest Gump untouchable, or can you remake that?
No, I think that's untouchable.
I hated Forrest Gump, so
How do you hate Forrest Gump?
Because it beat Pulp Fiction to the Oscar, really.
Yeah, but Pulp Fiction isn't that good though. Pulp Fiction is one of my least favourite Tarantino movies.
Well, these are two controversial statements from two people I was not expecting that from. Pulp Fiction's not that good and I hate Forrest Gump. Who are you people?
Forrest Gump was just, like, I can't imagine sitting through Forrest Gump again. But I can quite easily watch Pulp Fiction over and over again.
How do you not like Forrest Gump? For someone who's so into like niceness and cutesy shit, you really should love this.
No, but I wasn't. I was 19 then, so like I wasn't like a married father of one.
Okay. Would you like to see Forrest Gump remade then? Do you think that's something that would
Simple Jack style?
Yeah.
That's really bad. I don't mean that at all. That's horrendous.
I don't think I could see anybody else in the role.
No,
other than Tom
You
Hanks.
couldn't. Well, it would only be a lampoon. You'd be lampooning it.
Okay, another classic. Big.
They have technically done that though.
Yeah, that's been done.
30 going on 30, and technically the reverse, which is 17 again, or the opposite.
Yeah, I think that's.
I'm talking about a direct remake. This not get this body swap story or something and relabel and repackage it as something else.
I think 13 going on 30 is still very much just.
Well, do you know what? I think Big. I think Big might be quite interesting now because like of the technology and everything, and you know, it would be like
how different children are from back then.
Yeah, well, it would be an app on his phone, wouldn't it? That he would download and he would become this.
Yeah.
But like kids are a lot more aware of
hugely so
and stuff. So I don't know if it would work.
I mean, it would be weird though because like one of the most interesting and unusually like, which is still quite a weird thing, is that technically he's 12 years old even though he is Tom Hanks. And he has sex with Wilma Flintstone. I can't remember what her name is.
Elizabeth Perkins.
Thank you. I just memorised Wilma Flintstone because she was awesome as Wilma Flintstone. Yeah, and then he goes back to being like 13 again, and it's how old he is, and it's like he was still a child. It's still
that's
it really. I mean, it's sweet now, it's good, but imagine that now. You'd get hung for it.
Well, do you have a Wilma Flintstone fetish?
A little bit.
Just curious.
A little bit.
Okay. Dragnet. I can see this being a police procedural.
They did they redid it about 10 years ago now, maybe, with Ed O'Neill playing the Dan Aykroyd role, and it had who was it? Was it Ethan Embry?
Ethan Embry?
He was the other cop. So they did it as a TV series, which I think got cancelled after 2 seasons.
Oddly enough, sorry, back to Wilma Flintstone. I also like Kristen Johnson as Wilma Flintstone as well. And although Viva Rock Vegas is shit, I still actually love her as well. And I love Kristen Stewart. Sorry.
So you are confirming you have a Wilma Flintstone?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just thinking about it now. Thinking about it now, I'm just like, actually, sorry. Total
okay. Road to Perdition.
Yeah, you could.
I don't think so. I think Road to Perdition is pretty much perfect.
It's alright.
Dull as in dark.
It's good. I just don't think it's his best stuff. I think you could do that again. I mean, you could, because
it is adapted from a comic book. So
it's I think you could do that again. I mean, it's a great film, but I don't think it's very much like Dragon. I think you could do that again. Personally, I think you could.
I think it's
unlike Forrest Gump and Big, which are so tied to Tom Hanks, that I think you could.
Why would you remake Road to Perdition? It's based on a text, though. I mean, I don't see how you can go a different way with it, or like.
What did we just talk about taking periodic license?
No, I know, but like if you're using a basis of something, there's not that many different ways you can go with.
Philadelphia, Untouchable, or can you do something with it? Or could you just update it for?
I'm not being cheeky, and I was going to say, but like Philadelphia was huge when it came out because obviously at the time AIDS was still quite a prevalent and quite a hot topic, and I know obviously South Park make joke of this, and obviously I'm not making a joke of this. I know it's still a serious health issue. It would be interesting to look at this, especially in the current light of sort of same-sex marriage and stuff. I think there's a lot you could do with it.
But the thing is,
but it wouldn't be Philadelphia.
You would have to change the disease, though.
It wouldn't be. Yeah, I think
because AIDS isn't fatal anymore. Whereas,
I mean, a lot of people it's still a threatening thing, and people still live a hard life with it. I think you'd have to, if you were going to do AIDS and sort of because a big part of it also is, again, there's the same-sex relationships. You could look at something a bit more, but then it wouldn't really be Philadelphia.
Yeah,
so
I think it's fine where it is.
I think
A League of Their Own.
Easily, you could remake that. That's any sort of sports movie. I mean,
yeah, but I mean, you could remake the Mighty Ducks, but you don't really want to because the Mighty Ducks is the Mighty Ducks.
You know, I like
the Mighty Ducks, but I'm saying that you could remake that though. That wouldn't be.
No, I would do a shot for shot remake, but just take Madonna out of it and cast somebody else. Other than that, it's fine.
God, I hate Madonna.
Saving Private Ryan.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no as well.
Untouchable.
That is, that is. I mean, that is one of the best pieces of cinema in a long time, especially when it comes to dealing with
just
the war.
Apollo 13.
No, that stays, man. That's. I rewatched that again.
Great film. I agree. Great
I'll
film.
believe that.
I mean, you could, but what else could you do? I think it's good the way it is. It doesn't need.
You wouldn't. The only need to remake something is to tell it a different way,
And you don't need to tell it a different way, especially because it's again quite rooted in real events.
Let's not put our sensible caps on and let's have our Hollywood caps on here. We're doing remakes to make money.
We're doing Hollywood remakes. Let's remake them all.
Yeah.
You know, in that case, then that's brilliant. Let's do it.
Okay, that's my list. Any off the top of your head, do you think that Tom Hanks has been in that need remade? Splash?
You could
I like Splash.
No, I do as well, but you could put a Zac Efron type in with, I don't know, who the latest other, like Margot Robbie as a mermaid, and people would lose their mind over it. You know, like...
Yeah, they actually would.
Yeah, they really would.
I think Splash is up there for
you could remake Splash.
Remade. I think like
The Burbs.
He's kind of Sleepless in Seattle type ones. You know, the ones where like him and Meg Ryan fall in love, and You Got Mail could be updated. You know, with all the different technologies and stuff. I think all these love story ones can be retold with younger actors.
My mother, would, if you said Sleepless in Seattle could be remade, she'd kill you on the spot. She would kill you on the spot. There's two things that my mother loves in this world: Sleepless in Seattle and James Bond. And there's two things she'd say you never mess with. Right? She honestly got
Chris is 10th on that list. It's just like
10th, I'm not even on that list. You're mad. I said things she loves.
Right, okay. Well, that is it from us for this podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you from Dan. Thank you from Welshy.
Thank you.
And thank you from Dave.
Thank you, Dan. Pleasure as always.
And we'll see you next
Take care,
time.
guys.
Bye-bye.